Tanda Jerdu Ye Chunchuk Semjong Tela, Tan number Nieba, Te Nani, Tangbo, Tandon Chunchu the Saint Yepate, Tatanong, Naduchala Huparella, Tatanda, Kunzu Chunchuk Sem, Gombe Tap, Ate Tembare, Tini, Tatean. 다 저도 단다 로종 그 값수 되네 희지게做的 장축 그 셈지 꼬리 받겠다 장축 그 셈지 나니 장 근조 장축 셈데 조르제네 성고바 레라 수마레라 되네 데 근조 생긴데 간디지레세 나타 내가 땡들고 온듯이 수마레 Tini teya jerdo jo selling pake somna tini ta chitang namba sanji pi nyamling ke zo de chue tang ji dong ni dong da me pa gam ni tini pangja pangwa ta toja tokpa ta tini nange wa re re de yin na yang tanda lojong ke ka la tini da me pa gamba de zo na ma yin pa ne kap da ye pa tar to sin gamba ta tini da ye pa tar to gamba la tini yin ya ye pa ra bo che sin da yin number ni ge ni ye pa tar to sin ta gam ko yo re tini so.
Among the 7 points of mind training, we are now at the second, which is the main practice. It has two parts, absolute bodhicitta, relative bodhicitta. The main topic of training the mind here in the mind training is that of generating bodhicitta, and it has two parts, absolute and relative. But in this part, in this teaching here, it is the relative which is the most emphasized, relative bodhicitta. And relative bodhicitta means what is of immediate or importance for the practitioner, and also what occurs due to interdependentness in the sense of being relative. And it is true that when training in meditation and training oneself in realizing how things are, that it is one of understanding emptiness and the absence of personal identity, the identity of things and so forth. And yet at the same time, the training in relative bodhicitta is one where one kind of acts as if there is a personal identity, a self, and because of that there are also others. So it is a training in which there is a kind of make-believe in self and others.
Tene ta teya jo selling pa song na tene chitang kong pe yo ne per na ngaran so me to nda ta tene ndrun da bo tene tap na tene te sacha chang ma tene combo tene la tap na che gre se na che ma re wona kande la che gre se na tene sacha lamba da bo tene te tsare tsore ya pa le nda bo ya pa sacha chang ma mai ba che la tene me to tap na yan da ndo la so pa tap na yan da che ge yo re la pe te yendo tanda chonchu ku sem te ya tene tanda da me pa gam 돈이 검나 니 종축 샘데 대점 요버 제게요 말해라 원나 간디진이 제게래세나 니 더 예바 다든 좀 받다 yin 예바 다든 당신 예바 다부 온데세나 제게요래 준신 티처나 다단다 근저 종축 샘나 로종 가슬라 조셀링 바가 공발라 더 메페타와데 조르템 바마인바 더 예바 다부지신 yin 예바 다든 니 근저 종축 샘데 공게요.
This is a special instruction from the master of Sumatra, Jo Selingpa, because he said when you plant a seed of a flower or a grain, when you plant it in a place which is very clean and very neat and very dry and like that, then will that seed grow nicely as well? No, it won't. It requires something which is kind of moist, which is kind of dirty in the sense that there's some manure there, and also where the soil is kind of loosened up so it doesn't really hold together at all. And in exactly the same way as the seed would grow in a place like that, become a flower, become grain like that, when we only train in being kind of empty and holding no notion of personal identity, of me, of self, then will that bodhisattva attitude quickly grow and progress within that state of mind? No, it won't, he said. It is much more conducive to have the bodhisattva attitude grow in a state of mind which holds a kind of seeming presence of me and others. So that is this instruction of Jo Selingpa.
Tene ta telaya ta tige tene kunzo sonju sem te pelwe ke tabla jerdo ngaranso la ta chitang kulon number 2 la tene kulon cheite pensen ta je yapo soya ta tene yapo pelya ke chitla pensen je pa cheita tene tegendla yang kapkapla nesem sena te yenla ne pa charya ta tene pa torya ta hiya la so pata nesem te ta chitang kulon number 2 la Tina ne tate pensem te ya tangaranso kapkala pensem ya pa kapkala nesem ya pa imbecherna pensem te ya koni konto peli gupa cheita nesem te ma nyondu tang gupa chere junsen karire se na tene pensem te ye na nekap lalin la tar thup na yonda tar ma thup na yonda te rimbi ke tene te la 펜바트야 그 사와라 휴바테이다 네셈테 랑 셈라 여나 드니 림지 드니 두갑청나 네바테 잘위게 드니 사와란 주버린주로 와인 비처나 드니 랑히 술레이나야 펜바테 거기요 아레마토 네바테 거기요 마레 드니 준신 티처나 네바 민종와테이다 펜반 중우게 쳤다라 펜셈테야 벨고바테이다 네셈테마
When it comes to promoting the bodhisattva frame of mind, we need to consider two tendencies that most people have. One is called goodwill and the other ill will. And it seems like most of people from time to time have either of the two. They kind of alternate. Goodwill means that we want to help, we want to further what is valuable, what is good, what is helpful, and in other words, out of a good heart. But then it also happens that sometimes we have ill will. We want to hurt, to harm, to destroy. And when it comes to training or bringing forth the bodhisattva attitude, it seems like goodwill is more helpful than ill will. So as a practitioner, we are suggested or encouraged to try our best to cultivate the attitudes of goodwill and as much as possible, and to diminish, to put less energy into attitudes of ill will. And why is that? It is because that actually both when we become used to an attitude, then sooner or later it becomes expressed. It's just how it is. We move into a pattern in which the attitude takes form, either words or physical action. And that is true for cultivating an attitude of goodwill, an altruistic frame of mind. But it's also true for ill will. If that is our habit, sooner or later it becomes expressed in words and in deeds as well. And when we consider what do we actually need, what do others need, they don't need ill will, they need goodwill. So for someone who is an aspiring bodhisattva, we are suggested to train in goodwill and hold in the reins, so to speak, on ill will.
Tene ta tela yang jerdo pensem chi yin la ngus penkre la. Tene te yin do rang la yang penkre, kari de se na rang ke pensem chi go ni yin la pen ta. Te pen ta pa la tene rang la yang pen pa rim ji jung ge jut ni. Pen pa rim ji jung ge yo re la. Te yin do ne sem go on de se na ne sem ji yin la ne ge yo re la. Te ne pa la tene rang la yang rim ji ne pa yung ge yo re. Junsen te la tene pensem te pel go pa che ta. Tene ne sem te pang go pa che re la. Ta te yang pensem pel wa ta. Tene ne sem pang be ke cher tu. Tene tsawa ndabo te che na. Tene tsawa te la kong namba ni yo re la. Da chi principa ta yin chi principa ni yo re. Ta da chi principa te tene chitang ta ngara chi principa re te da chi principa rang ngo la te chom ge chen yo ma re te yin ya da chi principa la tene kap ka la yin la ne pa chal wa ta yin la tene ngara la de chi jong ge sampan da bo tene sampan ma da pan chung chu nyen ka yo re la teacher na da jinjin te ta tanda rangin la ne pa pon si pe ke cheta la da jinjin te pon si go ba che ta rangin la pember si pe ke cheta la tene yin ji principle te yin la ji principle na tene yin ji rang tho jong se pran jro wa yin pe chen rangin ni ka la pember jro wa yin pe chen na tene yin ji principle te koni kon to pel na tene pensem te pel gi
Another reason is that goodwill helps both others and oneself. It immediately helps others if one expresses goodwill. And indirectly, sooner or later, there's a feedback that they will be nice to oneself. So it also helps oneself to have a benevolent frame of mind to others. Ill will, on the other hand, immediately hurts others, and therefore indirectly it will hurt oneself as well. Now, if we trace back these attitudes, where do they spring from? They spring from two other attitudes. One is to regard oneself as being most important, and the other from regarding others as being most important. And if we look at the feeling, I am important, in itself it may not be so negative or evil, but then at the same time it becomes a basis for a lot of, it could be the basis for a lot of disaster, because if one regards me as being more important than others, sooner or later then one will express that in ways that are unfavorable to others. One may even hurt them and harm them in order to be nice to oneself. But on the other one, regarding others as important, will sooner or later be good for both others and for oneself. So therefore, we should try our best to develop further and further the attitude of regarding others as important rather than only oneself.
Tene ta tejen de la lo jong be kap sala ta lo zo kari jang ge yore se na tene ngaran su tu jun do da jin zin te ye pa ta yin la jin zin te zo me pa te jang ne tene da jin zin te chung dun ro ta yin jin zin te cher ro ge che de la lo te jang ba re la tene te jang ba la tene rang yin kang ga la pen pan jong je ta ji tang ge za wa da ba te tene te rimbi ge tene yin la ji par zai ne yin tham ji tene tar tu pen ba do ba tene da ji par zai ba te pang ne tene yin dan ko na se ba ta ti song ju ge san ji za wan da bo ji yin be cher na dong bo da jin zin te chung tu dang ta te ta da jin zin te ndru ge ta te zo nang ge yo la.
This is where mind training comes in, because the situation can be remedied here. And why is that? It is because usually it is the predominant habit for people to give more importance to oneself than to others. But that can be changed. One can train in developing further the attitude of wanting to help others, and one can diminish the tendency to regard oneself as being so special and important. And that will be very beneficial, and we can train in that further and further, so that finally there is not much self-importance left in one's mind, but only or exclusively an attitude of wanting to be of benefit to others. This is the real basis for mind training.
Tene ta tela ya ta tanda da jin zin de pang war se pe ge tap de ta ji dang ge dan dam song chu ge san do gun zo song chu ge san number 2 yo la dan do song chu ge san ji on de se na da jin zin dong da hi cha wa de ma du pa dong dong ni dong ju ma da ba yin ba ta ta no kong zu ba yin de de ta bu gam bu go ni pang wa re tene de un ni za wa ni pang wa re re de yin na ya de tanda le dang bo bi de bun jo bo yo mare la ta tanda kunzo chongchu ge san den rebun jobo tanya ga on de se de teni de da jin zin de pan ne teni chongchu san ji chongchu chu de san ji chongchu san ji damba len ne teni yen dan drup ge som be kong de ja chen bo pe ya de la kunzo chongchu ge san re la teni de ya tanda zo teni ja si hwa len ze pe chongchu san be ja ba lan ju ba 다버지 옛나 되니 배 종주 산지 배 종주 산 검나 고바 카리야바 되니 종주 산데 되니 마검나 제 카리용게야바 다지 프린스 바빵 고게야바 라소 로주 되니 배탄다 야보다 세 힘보다 되니 배곧 데보 되네 송요래.
This is the whole main practice here, that of forming the Bodhisattva attitude, and that is the that eliminates the tendency to treasure oneself, self-cherishing. Absolute bodhicitta obliterates the very basis for self-cherishing. And why? Because it is seen that the ego, the personal identity, is non-existent, and its presence is a mere illusion. So therefore you can say that training in absolute bodhicitta completely eliminates self-cherishing. But for a beginner, as we are beginners, then it may not be so easy to be successful in that way right from the beginning. So therefore it is more like pragmatic to put emphasis on relative bodhicitta, where we take the bodhisattva vow and we commence the training of being a bodhisattva, and especially studying such a text like Shantideva's Entering the Way of a Bodhisattva, where is explained the benefits of developing bodhicitta, how to do so, and the different trainings that it involves. Also the negative consequence of totally ignoring training in being a bodhisattva. And these pieces of advice are phrased very poetically in a beautiful book called The Way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva.
Tene ta ti nong to salvo ten yore la tene pe yapo song yore te ina yung ngune le tangpo pe nyom le nang tang te se kap yore la tene tanda lo jong tende mag na la tene jenju nang yin ke pe tsik sapo tong ja chimbo tende song yo ma re te ina yang tanda ngune nyom su len tang te menga te koran salvor ten yapa yin bichar na tene ngaran su le tangpo pa la tene lo jong te pe pento chewa yung yore.
The 7 points of mind training may not be so poetical and not as detailed as the way of the Bodhisattva, but for a beginner it is more applicable. You can say you get hands-on tools from the very beginning, because in the way of the Bodhisattva it's not as clearly mentioned how to begin. Well, here it is, and in that way the 7-point mind training is more useful for a beginner in how to start the practice.
Tene ta te yang lo jong tende me zawe nong to tonglen nipo pelmar gam song yore la ta zawa ngaran tsu da jin zin te pang pa tang yin jin zin te pelwe ke cher to tene ta tap kare chi go yore se na rikpi dupan rapu ma yin ba tene jipa ga go ne ma yin ba ta korang uni gom ne la to lang ne te gom ne sem ji ten to gom ne pel go ba yin ba cher na tene tonglen ni de pel gom ge yore la tene tonglen ni bo de gong du te la tene zo ngarang ta ngarang dana ya pa som tene ngarang gan dan do senjin mambo ji ya pa gam na yo de ge yore ya te som gom menu ba yin senjin ka hi ji ya pa gam na yo de ge yore ya na tene ngarang ge je hedang ji we ge yol dan da bo ri ni de gam na ya de ge yore ya na ni ji ji we yol senjin du ngal jin de gam na yo de ge yore la te gam ne tene rimbe ge ngarang ge dewa ta dewe jo gewa tenzo senjin tenzo la pa jimba ta wa yin konzo la pel wa yin samba che ta tene senjin tenzo ge zo dungal ta tene dungal ji jo dikpa migewa so pa ta dikpa migewe jo nyamo ba chi chu chenbo ye pa la so pa tenzo ta pongja ge re su to pa tenzo ngarang ge chur len ne tene chasa ngarang la chur len ge yin samba tende se ne tene te yang tonglen ni po pelmar gam se du rang ge de chi ta gewa te par tong tene yin ji dungal ta migewa ta nyamo ba tenzo chur len yang par tang yang chur len tende se ne pelma se ne gam gu re ta de la tene yin chi par zamba te ya hyo cherun do ya ta rang chi par zamba te ma hyo chong do ya ge se do te gam gu re so.
So here we get the first instruction. Sending and taking should be practiced alternately. This is not an instruction of trying to figure out the mechanics of how to go about or why one should give up self-cherishing and regard others as more important. But this is a very practical instruction. It's not some way of reasoning or deducing how and why, but it is some very simple advice in how to begin, something actual. And we begin by imagining some other sentient beings in front of us. If you can imagine many, that's fine. If just a few, it's also all right. If they're in people that we know who are okay, it's all right. If they're people in distress who are suffering, it's also fine. But what we imagine is that we wish them to be happy, to have the causes of happiness as well. And in order for that to happen, we imagine that we give away whatever goodness we personally possess and give it to them. And whatever suffering and also the causes for suffering that they possess, we imagine that we take it from them so that they are alleviated from that which creates suffering and distress, all the negative emotions, the obscurations, and so forth, that are the direct causes for suffering. And being removed from these, they experience happiness and sense of well-being. And this we imagine, and then we imagine it again and again. And that is the training that we become more and more used to, taking away the suffering of others and giving them our own well-being and causes of happiness. And by training in this way, the tendency to regard oneself as more important and others as less become diminished, while the attitude of regarding others as more important become stronger and stronger.
Tene ta te yang san lan di hin kam de ge cherto song na yang za we no ni che ni ba de la de ni long la jian de sha song yo de la ta par ton a to chur lemba tene rang de ji da gewala so ba par tang wa da dungal yin ji dungal da nyam ba la so ba chur lemba de ya tene ta rang tab de wa da mi kwa sal we ge cherto la long la jian de ta ngarang ge par tang wa da chur lembe kap ta na jar ne tene ba yin da la jar ne gong ko pa la song yo re la tene te sun du te la ya rang ge te si mi rem da bo ji se de ta chitang tang wa yin so lemba yin som ba chang ma yin pa ta rang ge long de par tang kap so la tene rang ge gewa ta jo gewa ta debu dewa la so pa ta yi do wa ta yak pu ge re so to pa tham chi te je we ka bu ge nam ban da bo je la gam ne tene pa na bu ne tan te tene paru bo sen chi ten zo la tem ne tene ten zo je pe gawa san la gawa ta tem ba to lu la dewa ta tem ba ta tene de ji pu som so ba ta tem ba yen den ta tem ba ta tene je la rim jin jor song sam ba je ta tene o chorung pe kap sa la je to wan da bo ta to wan da bo kha do ngam bo ta na bo nam ba la tene yen je dunghal ta jo debu dunghal ta jo dipa me ge wa ta nyam ba ten so ta te nam ba la chor lang ne konzo ya te lang ba la te ne yang sing da bo je sin pa lang ne tene rang la them song sam ba tene se du tene te jun sing tong go pa kare re se na tang huma rang ge rang la de ji dang long ji go ba je yen la te me go ba ji yo re la ta ti sam ba ti jor ni rang la dungal ta kengin ten sur lemba yin rang ki pran zamba te pa yo ne tene yin la de ji dong long ji go ba te yin ki pran zamba te pel ne ta ten de sin ne long na ten ne gong ko re ten so.
Moreover, there's an additional instruction to help us become more accustomed, become better at training in this way. And that is not just to imagine that this happened mentally, but to put it together with our movement of breath. As it says here, these two should ride the breath. And we can put the form on as well, so that when we exhale, we imagine that our merit, our well-being, and physical, mental happiness, and so forth, whatever we may possess, is all sent out to the other sentient beings in the form of that comes out of our nostrils of white light, and then as it touches the other beings, they can become infused with our own sense of well-being, with our merit, with our virtues, and so forth, and immediate we imagine that they are alleviated from whatever burden they may have they become happy and at ease. We imagine that immediately. And then as we inhale, when we breathe in again, we imagine that whatever that is bothering them, their negative emotions, their suffering, their problems and so forth, leave them in the form of dark colored light or black colored, and we inhale that, take it upon ourselves, and immediately they are again alleviated from the burden, and we imagine that they are much more light and at ease, and happy, and like that. And maybe inhale that, and we carry that on again and again as we breathe out and breathe in again and again.
Tene ta te tabo ta tonglen ni bote gong kre la. Tene tonglen ni bote gong be kap la ngaran so tene ji ro tabo. Ji se kre. Kari re se na ta ngaran so rang yin ki do la jin sing chen bo ye ba yin cher na. Ta ngaran ki yen ten ta dewa ta gewa ta ji par tang na. Tene ngaran la de ji tang gong che la so pa kan ya me ba je. 운주기 년가에 받아고 제다 되네 yenje dungal te tsur tondo long yana tene ngarang la dechi ton longche la sopa meba mazi pe dungal ton parchi tan chengi mambuji teg re sompe kin jitwa ndabo jesegre la tene tin jitwa te jesba jeta ti masi pa ge yang kapka la che ne kap ge chengi bandabo che kapka la ngarang la nasan ndabo tan chengi bandabo che sona o te nge doi tene doi jewa la tene tongling mi pa se pa la tene song sompe jitan da boy yung sigre re te ina ya ngune tinde yung mare la ti junsin karire se na tene rang de du ina ya rang le la tene jung yore yenj de du ina ya yenj le la tene jung yore tene le maje pa ta mentri pa le sapa chibesawa sune la ti yung yore ma to tene ngarang o la tene dewa jen joji ya panda bo da o la tene dunga len joji ya panda bo mare la teacher nang ngarang la dunga che to mo ji ungre ngarang dewa ti nyom dog re sombe ji to anda bo zawa ni go mare.
So as we train in this way, in order to diminish self-cherishing and become more caring about the well-being of others, it is possible that one fear, one worry may sneak into our minds. And it happens because of we have usually the tendency to worry about ourselves. So, and this worry, it will say like this: well, if I now give away all my merit, my happiness and well-being to others, then I may not have any for myself. And not only that, in addition to having no happiness and good conditions and so forth, I may take upon the suffering of others. So I will suffer, I will have their problems and their obscurations and like that. That's one type of worry. And then another type is that when things go a little not so well, we may fall sick or have a problem of some kind, then the thought comes, well, this is because I practiced tonglen. I was being a little too concerned with taking upon myself the suffering of other beings. And now see what happened. But there's no truth to this, to these two types of worry. And why is that? It's because one does not experience the ripening of a karma that one did not create. And also, other people, they suffer from the karmas that they created, because they created a certain karmic action. It's not that they can be transferred or eliminated by simply inhaling and exhaling. It doesn't happen like that. So we don't need to worry because it won't happen.
Tene ta te tabu indu tene ya tesamche jegre la wona ta pemba ya me nepa ya me yenji dunga yo le mato rang dewa yo ta mato na tene te gomne gupa kari yore se na tel gupa yore gupa yepa te ya nekap ge dungal de chur lemba ta rang deji te par tang ge chetla te gong yo mare wona kang ge chetla gong yore se na tene tene rang zo da jinjin de bang bu ge cheta yin jinjin de pel ge cheta gong ge yore la tene junsin de la tene tonglen ni bo de gam na tene rang da jinjin de chung ro ta yin jinjin de kong ni kong pel ro yin cher na tene rang nye mo ba ta ngajal tong thodo ta yedang la so ba yin chung ro ge yore la te yendo la yin la pembe ge sem tene chambata ninje tong shongchu ge san ten kone kong pel ro ge la ten pel wala tene yin la mahompa la dungal sal tu ge nupa ta demba yone yin la pemba yon drup tu ge yore la te yendo la rang la pemba yon rang yin ki jung ge yore kan se na tene te yin la jinjin ge lo te pel da jinjin te chung tu song na rang la yon de ji tong long chi pusum so ba kan de se na yon tar tu ki yin tin tong ji de la tene jung ge yore la ti cher na de tar tu kin de yang jitang ke samba sangpo yin bi cher na kap ka la ne kap ke dunga tong de du tong ni se pa la tene kap ka la yang pemba yon sigi yore ti ne kap ji pemba re jun sin ti cher na de du tong ling gam pa la tene ne kap so yon kap ka la penkre de ten yo ma re yang tar tu lan ngu ne thani pen tha ji tene rang yin ni ka la pemba ta tene ti pemba ten ya tene ti rang ti chong chu sen ji kong de ja chen bo ji bel to na tene ma hong pa la ta zo ya me pa ko ma tong bahar du sung yo re la ti tar do tene ngarang nu pa de ma zo pa ji ge go ne pen ta to pa yong yo re.
Now another worry comes. Well, what is the use then? If it doesn't help to take away the suffering of others, and if one can't really give away one's own happiness and well-being, then why bother? The answer to this is that there is a reason to do this practice, but it's not immediately to take away the suffering of others and give one's own happiness. That's not the purpose of this practice. The purpose is to diminish the tendency of self-cherishing and to increase the attitude of benevolence, loving kindness. That is the purpose, and the training is a direct cause for accomplishing that. Because the more we train in giving away our own happiness and well-being, our merit and virtues and so forth, the more we lessen this tightness of being concerned with only me. And the more we train in giving happiness to other sentient beings and taking away their suffering, the more the virtuous qualities of loving kindness, of compassion, of bodhichitta will grow. And when these qualities become stronger and stronger, then at some point we are directly capable of providing that which is the causes for happiness for all other sentient beings. And that is one thing. It also helps oneself, because the more we are involved in pure benevolent activity for the benefit of others, the less problem we create for ourselves. So it helps ourselves as well as helping others. Maybe not immediately helping others, but ultimately this training becomes the cause for becoming able to assist other sentient beings in a way which is all-encompassing and unceasing. And it is possible now and then that it could help others immediately, but it's never sure. It's just possible. It's not guaranteed.
Tene ta te ta gom ne ta tende junsin tang gu pa tinde re la ta ti yang ni yang to gam tini yang ngaran so chitan jito che gu gu ma re te jito me che we cher to ta yang me ngon da la ka re gong ge wa re se na tini ngarang ge de du tonglen ge mi pa si pe ka so la dung hal tong de lem pe kap so tini che ngarang ge lu chi nang to da jin jin yin sam pa da che da jin jin de che sen jin ge nam pa da che la gam na yang da yang na pem bu nam pa da che la gam na yang da tini ti che bo che ya pa che gam ne tini ti yen ji dung hal de chur la ne yong ka sa la tini ngarang ge lu chi nang de ye da jin jin te la po ne da jin jin te pa tor wa na yin tini chung do ro wa ta da jin jin te tini ma sel ji ne ro da da jin jin te ko pa yam ro da tini gam na ya tini ti ge da jin jin bang ba la yang pen ba che da tini ngarang la ji ro che wa la yang pen ba ta ti ne ka ge pen bi ge che la te ta ba gam na yung de ge wa re.
There is an additional instruction that we can use in order to be unafraid of this practice if it happens that we are kind of apprehensive that taking upon the suffering of others could somehow hurt us. And the way is this: we imagine that inside our body there is a little form. It could be in the form of a living creature, or it could be in form of a thing. And it is the self-cherishing that has taken a form. And as we inhale the obscurations, the suffering, the negative emotions of other beings, then they hit that critter or that little lump of self-cherishing, and as they do so, it becomes smaller and smaller. It kind of chips away of that, from that block until it is no more. And on a temporary basis, it's perfectly all right that we imagine this, to be unafraid.
Tene ta te tanda nguye songjun de kunzo songjun de senje pa te nyam yo ka kap so hom pen ji ka so la gom ya te tanda za che ka on de se na tong li ni bo pel mar gom te ni long la jen de sa se king ti se ni de gom ge wa la tene ti ji so la ta te nyam yo ka kap ta pen ji kap so la gom ya che ta ti ji so la thun sam ji kap so la gom ya ta tene ta tanda thun sam ta ji dop ji ka so la gom ya te la tene za we che ka na ni song na yul som tu som ge sa som song ta tang bo che che kang ba che song re la tene te ya yul som sung du te la che yul kap ka la tene ji pon da bo ta zi bon da bo ta ya pon da bon thong ya che ta tien thong kap sa la tene tu som se du ta ngarang ke san la che ta ti ya po do pe ngarang la ti gu san do som be ki hen cha da bo che ji wa ten de che tende ji chung kap sa la ta kare gu gre se na tene ti tang bo ngarang la nye mo ba tende ji song som ba ta tene ti ha ko ni nye mo ba ta de shan da bo ji ba tel nye mo ba de sha ji pa re som ne ha ko ni ta ngarang la nye mo ba de sha ji pa re nye mo ba de sha ndi ten la tene sen jin tham ji gen de sha de tem ne ta ngarang la tem par hyo sen jin tham ji de sha gen nye mo ba tham ji tong dhalwa 제 용화효 생진 탐지 녀몬 반대서 좀 달위게 기와단 템버효 손네 만남 잡아대 만남 잡 데이터부 썸 데이터부 검 딘데시 바티 녀몬 반대서 타 대야 갑가라 드니 율이 도미용와 베 산라 mgawa 해당지위기 율다 보진 통나 양아랑 그 산라 녀몬 바 해당지 제용을라 녀몬 바 해당지 제용 값으로 오 다가라 녀몬 바 해당지 송 sabata tene tel tene ngarang ge hedang di den de senjin tamji ji hedang de temne tene senjin tamji hedang meba meba je dang senjin tamji hedang meba ge holen ne ber hyo som nangam japa da tende
This training, sending and taking, should be practiced alternately. These two should ride the breath. That is a practice we do during a meditation session, and therefore it belongs to the meditation state under relative bodhichitta. But there is also an instruction to use during post-meditation when we move about. And the sentence is this: 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 seeds of virtue. That's the root sentence. 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 seeds of virtue. First about the 3 objects and poisons and so forth. When we move about in our daily situations, it does happen from time to time that we see or hear an object, sound and so forth, which is very pleasant, very neat, very nice and becoming, attractive. And then it may happen that in our minds some attachment is formed. Well, we may also notice that that happens. So then our next thought should be, may this be the attachment of all sentient beings. And in being so, may all sentient beings be free of attachment. May it be taken away from them through this attachment being formed in my mind. And may they all experience the happiness of being free from attachment. We form this attitude, we make this into a wish, a noble wish that all sentient beings are free. And in the same way, it may also happen that we see something which is unpleasant, which is maybe even disgusting or annoying, and we don't like it. We get irritated. We may even be angry at having to witness such an unpleasant object. And as we notice that this anger or aversion is forming in our minds, we should then make the wish, may this be the anger of all sentient beings. May it be the last they have. May they all experience the happiness of being totally free from anger.
Tene ta tegendle ya la tetav nyemon bandesha jo mai hedan ya mai na nje mo pa da wo temu namba ta be jona ta ngarang temu ti den de senjin tamji ji temu tamba yin senjin tamji temu me ba je da senjin tamji temu me be gyawal ne par ho sombe malam sampo tap ne ta tetav se pa tela yul som se du nyemon bandesha je yul hedan je yul tum ji yul som thong ala tene to som se du ngarang la nyemo ba to som bo te kari ji som na ya tene te sen ji tham ji je to som te tem ne sen ji tham ji ge we za wa som dang dem ba a manam ja pa te la ta te dan da tu som je kap sala sa wa tang bo je.
And then it also happens that we are neither attracted to anything or feeling aversion for anything, and yet our mind just remained in a way which is kind of blank or vacant, kind of absent-minded. And as we notice this, again, imagine that the blindness or the stupidity of all sentient beings kind of merge within that, and they are all alleviated from their ignorance, and make the wish, may this be the end of the ignorance of all sentient beings. May they all experience the happiness of being free. So in this way, the 3 objects means objects that provoke emotions of either attachment, anger, or close-mindedness, while the 3 poisons are these emotions. And then we imagine that they dissolve, that all sentient beings' tendencies dissolve into our own emotion as they arise, and the seeds of virtue are that the noble wish we form that all sentient beings may be free. This is a practice to be utilized during the post-meditation under relative bodhichitta.
Tene ta tegendle ya tanda jiroge tonsomje sawa nibate la ya zawe tsek na ne jialom kendo tseki jang hi songare la Teni Jamgon Kongtrul Tseki Jang Hipati, Tatanda Ngaranzo, Tangaranzo Tong, Ngaranzo Tu, Ngaranzo Train, Tatin Damanda Yung Capsula, Capcala, Tenipe, Yapo, Chipo, Mayenda Pe, Chipota, Gavoya Pandabon Tong, Tini Tela, Capcala, Tagdo and the Vochi Secretary, in Todo Majiba Jeta. Tini Titaini, Sembate Gavo. Tene koran pe yapore koran chipondo gavondo teta maumpa yang pe tembo yen rimbo la gavota chipo yon ho samba nanam japata tene te yendo la ya nekap teta gavota chipo mena ya te che gavota chipo jo samba zangbo ndapota jawa zangbo yen la kulong yakpo jin tenden tangchong tongchong na te ya pe sen la gavato toa jine tepe kalwa zangpo re, te tabi ke samba zangpo tang, jamba tang hinje tenzo, nyam mando wa tang, koni kondon pero hyo samba, menam jab, te sheba tang. Tene te yendo le yang, kashi dungal tang tenpa tende, parche tang tenpa, jen ngenpa tang tenpa tende, tong na, tene te nyen je, ta ti dungal te tong talwa hyo, samba tabo, menam jaba tang, kashi dungal ngus mantong na yung dungal ki jo, che samba ngenpa tang, shawa ngenpa dunkin, ta tende dabo tong chong na yung te korang samba ngenpa tang, shawa ngenpa tenzo, taldo hyo, samba menam jab, tende se tu, tene te Jamgon Kongtrul Tseki jong se, ngarang menam yapu jab tende kongre.
In addition, under relative bodhichitta, during post-meditation, there's one more sentence. In all activities, train with slogans, or literally train with words. In other words, putting words to our attitudes. That when we meet others who are better off than ourselves, who are happy and who may do good actions and so forth, rather than being jealous and competitive, just make the wish and formulate or articulate the wish. May they have happiness, and may they even progress in what they're doing. May their activity be increase and so forth. And then when we meet others who are maybe not doing anything special, then we again articulate a wish that may they progress, may they give rise to noble attitude and so forth, may they have happiness. When we see people who are suffering, we articulate the wish that maybe they be free from suffering. We make the prayer that may they quickly be alleviated from their causes of suffering and so forth. And if we meet people who are actively involved in creating causes of suffering, hurting others and doing negative actions and so forth, again make the wish that may they quickly stop doing so, and may they also attain happiness. Not only if we meet them in person, but only when we hear about and we see and even we even think of. And at that time, immediately articulate a noble wish in that regard.
Tene ta te tardo range tsik goni melam japa tsama impa tanguni ge deji inaya deji ngaranzo ge pel tupata yang kashi deji pel matupatinde yoarela dunghal inayung dunghal pang tupa yang yoare ta dunghal yang pang matupa yang yoarela tene te tabo deji pel tupa ina ta ngarange deji pel we tro si gobaje ta dunghal pang tupa ina ta ngarange pang tupa ndo samni dunghal de pang tro se tene ta tela yang kashi dunghal pang matupa deji pel matupa tende yung la te tawe ina ta je ngarange tandi ge nekap ndana tro se pe tukap ndabota ta kalwan ndabo yo mare te ina yo maon pala tela pin to tupa je dunghal sal tupa je yung ho somba nanam zangbo japate ta tanda ta Jamgon Kongtrul Tseki jang hipati non se bata.
That doesn't mean we have to stay with just verbalizing or making good wishes. in our minds. If there are sometimes situations where we can actively help others to increase their well-being, to remove their distress and their suffering. And there are some times when we can't, when there's nothing that we are capable of doing to alleviate their suffering and to provide for their happiness. If we are able to, then there is a chance right there to actually do something to help other beings. So why hold back? We can just do it right there. But also it may be that it's not possible. In other words, that we don't have the, you can say, the fortune to reach out at this point and be able to actually help someone else. But that doesn't mean we should just ignore it then. We can still make the noble wish that, all right, I may not be able to alleviate the suffering of this being right at that moment, but when the chance comes later on, may I be able to do so. That kind of a wish, both in terms of helping others to be happy and to remove their suffering.
Tene ta tela yulsum tusum getsa sum sinkin te da jelom kun de tsiki jong sinkin te ta tanda kunzu songchu sanje tanda tunsam je kapsala sawa te re la ta ti ji le tsik je yor lembe korem rang ni tsam sinkin je yor la lembe korem rang ni tsam hipa te 당보 다치다 두준도 공게 단다 열숨 도좀 게사숨 견험 건데 책 정생kin데 냠네 책이 요래데 옛날에 레 당보비 대답 썸못 봐 대답 시못 봐 근데지 정나 가르치 그랬으나 레 당보발라 펜베처도 되네 렘베 고렘 란이 좀 세순도 되네 예 베나 나랑게 데두 동네 시베 갑슬라 tene yin ngarang daw boda tene ngarang uni hedang ji yol gam matu banda botinde yung sigre la tene te yendol yin kanga la pin top ko kap chona yang pin top matu pata le tang bo pala tende yung sigre la tende chona tangbo remji kambe gi cherdola tene rang dang mantin be dal gam ma na rang dang tembe ni da he la so pa la rimbe gam na ya tene kali kam ne belt pa yung yo la tene te yendo la lolin tar we kap sa la ya ngni mek ta phalba chuma la ngarang ge phin to tu pe ko kap da bo phin to pe lo da bo je ma tu na tene ngarang dang tembe ge do da ni da he la so pa la tene 신들임지 도시네 니르미게 펜센데 벨나 벨투기요레.
There's one more instruction for daily activities in the post meditation on the relative bodhicitta. The sentence here has kind of slipped me. It's something with starting where you are. Do you have that? Comes right after the. Begin the
sequence of sending and taking with oneself.
With yourself, yeah. And that has to do with we may not be so capable at the very beginning in dealing with something which is very difficult. Someone who is in great need or in great distress. But that doesn't mean that we can't begin. We can still help someone who is not that much trouble. We can begin with imagining or dealing with someone who is like a friend or who is not in that much of a trouble, and then still helping. So we can begin with somewhere which is close to oneself.
Tene ta 대답 많이 나야 지당 그 뭐보 강당 강이나야 대지 정보다 야보시 그 두갑나고 렘지 장네 tene 림비게 생긴 강가라 tene 잠바다 니지 지토바다 옌나 펜센데 벨토바다 라지 브른즘바데 빵토반다보다 tene 용해요래.
And as we have begun, then there's room for progress. We can then gradually and slowly become capable of helping others who are in more more afflicted with suffering, until finally we are capable of benefiting all sentient beings.
Tene tanda tezam sena tene yang kahi sam tezi gamjana samna tanu twadang kajapujonsa tezi gamna kahi gamna.
And we'll stop here for today. And then someone has asked Rinpoche that would it be possible for us to do a little practice together? And so we'll do that now.
다 대지스라 안가랑 잠주 담바 난게나 잠주 담바 힘긴서 야 페로.
Next is the giving of the refuge precepts. So those of you who are taking refuge, please come up, sit in front.
테니 다 당보 초섬살 테니 대지스라 부모 예파살라 저 엠발랑 라바니 닝칼라 탈모자네 요 테니 디캅슬라 ngaran게 손데제 인댕그레라 손데데 베키덴데 그래 대지두 난고 그래 디 단달라 가리 요아레세나 나 상제라 잡선 로기 튜라 잡선 로기 겐데나 잡선 로기 생기지 요아레라 디 린 som도 제페 캡슐라 데니 우니 톡그테나 근데 상제 주 겐덴데 간조름 버지 넘버선나 잡선 로기 삼바세 드니 디손데 린 숨바데 차르두 나랑 그 세골제 또 그래라 드니 데 기타anga 왕다 보지 나 pom방 고속도 겨네 온토기 요래라 드니 담바 나무 값살라 데이터고 야야다고 가요 말에 컨디션 담바 토기 요래서 나 담바 토히지에시 당하랑 운에 담로 있나 강이나 디 담바데 톱송 sombe게 로제 질라 제나 텔라데니 토기 요래라 드니 디 값살라 텐데 셈 살탑네 드니 대양 생진 탐지 라펜베체드인 좀 손주 생지 공동 담바지 나로지.
Now, the ceremony begins with that you make 3 prostrations to Rinpoche as a preceptor, and then after that you kneel down with the left knee touching the ground and the right knee. Okay, the right knee. Delete that. The right knee touching the ground and the left knee up, and then the palms of your hands you join in front of your heart, and then Rinpoche is going to say something in Tibetan, which you repeat after him. The meaning of that is it's a request. You are requesting the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, to be your source of refuge and support. And from now on, and until enlightenment. And how do we obtain the refuge precepts? It is not like at the time of empowerment where a vase is touching the crown of your head, and at which point you obtain the empowerment. But here it is said that it is in the moment of acknowledgement. In other words, in your own minds, when you acknowledge, yes, I have now taken refuge. And that is you're supposed to do when Rinpoche snaps his fingers at a certain point after the 3rd repetition of that request. And that is the time when you have obtained the refuge precepts. So first bowing down 3 times. Now, and kneel down with the right knee touching the ground, like that, and the palms of your hands joined. And then repeat after him.
Chojona,
Chojona,
Yupe,
Shukpe,
Sanje Tang,
Sankye Tang,
Changchup Sempa,
Changchup Sempa,
Tamche,
Tamche,
Dala,
Dala,
Gonsusol,
Kongsusol,
Lopan,
Lopen,
Dala,
Dala,
Gonsusol,
Kongsusol,
Datu,
Datu,
Dene Zonte,
Dine Songte,
Jesit,
Jisi,
Tsoye,
Tsoyi,
Bharatu,
Bartu,
Kani,
Kangni,
Namjincho,
Namkicho,
Sanje La,
Sangye La,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
De Chak Tang,
Chocha Tang,
Talwa,
Jalwa,
Namjincho,
Namkicho,
Chö La,
Chola,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
Tso Namjincho,
So Namkicho,
Pape,
Pagbe,
Gendun,
Gendun,
Namla,
Namla,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
Da Chese,
Da Jisi,
Tsoye,
Tsoyi,
Bharatu,
Bartu,
Japsam,
Kyapsum,
Nzinpe,
Zinbe,
Genyin To,
Genyin Du,
Lopen Chi,
Lopingi,
Zondo Sol,
Songdu Sol,
Chojona,
Cho Chuna,
Yupe,
Shukbe,
Sanje Tang,
Sangye Tang,
Changchup Sempa,
Changchup Sempa,
Tamchi,
Samche,
Dala,
Dala,
Gonsu Sol,
Gongsu Sol,
Lopan,
Lopin,
Dala,
Dala,
Gonsu
Gongsu
Sol,
Sol,
Datu,
Da Du,
Dene Zonte,
Dine Songte,
Chesit,
Chizi,
Tsoye,
Tsoyi,
Bharatu,
Bardo,
Kani,
Kangni,
Namchincho,
Namkicho,
Sanje La,
Sangye La,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
De Chak Tang,
Docha Tang,
Talwa,
Jalwa,
Namchincho,
Namkicho,
Chö La,
Chola,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
Tso Namchincho,
So Namkicho,
Pape,
Pagbe,
Gendun,
Gendun,
Namla,
Namla,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
Da Chese,
Da Jisi,
Tsoye,
Tsoyi,
Bharatu,
Bardu,
Japsam,
Kyapsum,
Nzinpe,
Zinbe,
Genyin To,
Genyin Du,
Lopen Chi,
Lopingi,
Zondo Sol,
Songdu Sol,
Chojona,
Cho Juna,
Yupe,
Shukbe,
Sanje Tang,
Sangye Tang,
Changchup Sempa,
Changchup Sempa,
Tamchi,
Samche,
Dala,
Dala,
Gonsu Sol,
Gongsu Sol,
Lopan,
Lopin,
Dala,
Dala,
Gonsu
Gongsu
Sol,
Sol,
Datu,
Da Du,
Dene Zonte,
Dine Songte,
Chesit,
Jisi,
Tsoye,
Tsoyi,
Bharatu,
Bardu,
Kani,
Kangni,
Namchincho,
Namkicho,
Sanje La,
Sangye La,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
De Chak Tang,
Docha Tang,
Talwa,
Jalwa,
Namchincho,
Namkicho,
Chö La,
Chola,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
Tso Namchincho,
So Namkicho,
Pape,
Pagbe,
Gendun,
Gendun,
Namla,
Namla,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
Da Chese,
Da Jisi,
Tsoye,
Tsoyi,
Bharatu,
Bardu,
Japsam,
Kyapsum,
Nzinpe,
Zinbe,
Genyin To,
Genyin Du,
Lopen Chi,
Lopingi,
Zondo Sol,
Songdu Sol,
Chojona,
Cho Chuna,
Yupe,
Shukbe,
Sanje Tang,
Sangye Tang,
Changchup Sempa, Tamchi,
Samche,
Dala,
Dala,
Gonsu Sol,
Gongsu Sol,
Lopan,
Lopin,
Dala,
Dala,
Gonsu
Gongsu
Sol,
Sol,
Datu,
Da Du,
Dene Zonte,
Dine Songte,
Chesit,
Jisi,
Tsoye,
Tsoyi,
Bharatu,
Bardu,
Kani,
Kamni,
Namchincho,
Kyongkicho,
Sanje La,
Sangye La,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
De Chak Tang,
Docha Cham,
Talwa,
Jalwa,
Namchincho,
Namkicho,
Chö La,
Chola,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
Tso Namchincho,
So Namkicho,
Pape,
Pagbe,
Gendun,
Gendun,
Namla,
Namla,
Japsun Cheo,
Kyapsu Chewu,
Da Chese,
Da Jisi,
Tsoye,
Tsoyi,
Bharatu,
Bardu,
Japsam,
Kyapsum,
Nzinpe,
Zinbe,
Genyin To,
Genyin Du,
Lopen Chi,
Lopingi,
Zondo So,
Songdu Sol.
Tene, ta te jisu la, jisu ne tra te si jegre la, te kanchu som la ichi ji peten tang, tene, main saba ji togre la, tene te tambi chu chi go la xiu peten re, tene rinpa yin tu pet na ro na.
Awesome. Now, the next step, Rinpoche will cut a few strands of your hair as a support for entrusting yourself to the three jewels. Then he'll give you a new name, which is signifies entering the gate of the Dharma. So please come up one by one.
Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, 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 Namo Buddhaya, Namo Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. 다 되지야 yen. Tene ngarang melam je jabla.
You can stand up.
Niti melam te tanda cheran ambige tamdu dambe hyuni tambi chuchu gola hyupatela. Parchi me pata tene dev tarsi me melam jabla. Cheran nambayo semji tene teta be melam jabna roche.
I'll now make some prayers, and the meaning or purpose of this prayer is that you may have no obstacles in the path, and you may have good conditions and swift progress. These are the words I will pray and the wish I will make, and you yourself can join in as well in your minds.
Darbe janzen dembara jurje, sombara jeba zen tarra zambara jurje, sultimje pumbo yonso zobara jurje, seraba tamje do tambe ju nyamso lembe kalba dan dembara jurje, darbe janzen dembara jurje, sangbara jeba zen tarra zambara jurje, sultimje pumbo yonso zobara jurje, seraba tamje do tambe ju nyamso lembe Kalbada dembara joroje, tarbe janzen dembara joroje, sombara jeba zen tarra zimbara joroje, sultimje pumbo yonso zobara joroje, serab tamje do tambe ju nyamsa lembe, kalbada dembara joroje, trimje zo trimje me jen, so trim nambara da don den, lamsem mebe sultim paru jinzo hyo, jalwa gunje jizo lob jorode, zangbo jeba yonso zozi, sultim jeba jime yonda barada da manyam jime jebara hyo, lula chugu samje trake hyo, ngala dene samje trake, semla lapa samje trake hyo, gunla guncho samje trake hyo.
That completes the Refuge precept ceremony. Now you can go and sit down.
Okay. Tene ta nipa de jangju sembe damba de pugin. Tene jangju sembe hyunkin tinzo yang ya pero na.
Next will be the giving of the Bodhisattva vow. So those of you taking the Bodhisattva vow, please come up in front.
다 당보 차삼 살트니 디지슬야 단단하게 휴네 되네 당보 근주성나 잡순로 왔다 되네 디지슬라 되네 정준주도 샘제 바라라 되네 장준주도 샘제 바대야 당아란 속에 다 단다 쩌도 마준로와 농 다동년 비센진 탐지제 단도 되네 담비 주두기 sombe 그런 나와 때다 되네 대양 그런 자침보대 당한제 상지도 정주선 바탐지 지간데 세토제 바다도 나랑게 샘제게 난제 상지도 정주선 바탐지 토지니 정주선베게 제바칸데 지나와 연도 나라야 대다르도 제게 선바타부지 그거니 되네 나랑게 손데 진된 그래라 대제도 나로지.
First, you bow down 3 times to Rinpoche. Then again, you position yourself with in the posture explained before, with the right knee on the ground and your palms in front of your heart. And then first you will take refuge, and then after that comes the forming of the Bodhisattva vow. And the essence of this vow is I will practice the Dhamma in order to benefit all sentient beings, my mothers, as many as the sky is vast. And then Rinpoche will chant some lines, we'll repeat after him. What the meaning of these lines are is that just as the victorious ones of the past formed the resolve set upon supreme enlightenment, I will do so as well. And having formed the resolve set upon supreme enlightenment, how they engaged in all the activities and trainings of a bodhisattva, I will do so as well. Those are the words we repeat after Rinpoche 3 times. So first bowing down.
장첩 닝보르
Changchu, Nyingpo,
chi je par
chiki bar,
sanje namla
sankye namla,
japsun che
kyapsu che,
chu dang jang chu
chödang changchup,
sempa ye
sempa ye,
so la hong de yin
chola hang deshin,
japsun che
kyapsu che,
chitarang han che
kita ngungi,
de hi ji
deshiki,
jang chup tu ne
changchup togni,
je pa tang
kepa tang,
jang chup sempe
changchup sempe,
la pa la
ala,
de da rim yin
deta rimshin,
ne pa tar
nepa tar,
de yin ro la
deshin chola,
pendan to
pentun do,
jang chup sem ne
changchup semni,
ji je yin
kiki shing,
de yin to ne
deshin doni,
la pa la hong
lapa laham,
rimba yin to
rimpa shinto,
la par je
lapa ki,
jang chup nin bor
changchup ningpo,
chi je par
chiki bar,
sang je nam la
sankye namla,
jap sun che
kyapsu che,
chu dang jang chu
chödang changchup,
sem pa ye
sempa yi,
so la hong de yin
sola hang deshin,
jap sun che
kyapsu che,
chitarang han je
jita ngunchi,
de hi ji
deshiki,
chung chu tu ne
changchup toni,
je pa tang
kepa tang,
jang chup sem be
changchup sempe,
la pa la
lapa la,
de da rim yin
teta rimshin,
ne pa tar
nipa tar,
de yin ro la
deshin chola,
pendan to
pendun do,
jang chup sem ne
changchup semni,
ji je yin
kiki shing,
de yin to ne
deshin doni,
la pa la hong
lapa lang,
rimba yin to
rimpa shinto,
la par je
lapa ki,
jang chup nin bor
changchup ningpo,
chi je par
chiki bar,
sang je nam la
sankye namla,
jap sun che
kyapsu che,
chu dang jang chu
chödang changchup,
sem pa ye
sempa yi,
so la hong de yin
solang deshin,
jap sun che
kyapsu che,
chitarang han che
kita ngunji,
de hi ji
deshiki,
jang chup tu ne
changchup togni,
je pa tang
kepa tang,
jang chup sem pe
changchup sempe,
la pa la
lapa la,
de da rim yin
deta rimshin,
ne pa tar
nepa tar,
de yin ro la
deshin chola,
pendan to
pendun do,
jang chup sem ne
changchup semni,
ji je yin
kiki shing,
de yin to ne
kishin toni,
la pa la hong
lapa lang,
rimba yin to
lampa shinto,
la par je
lapa ki.
teni cha sam san de bo ji yu
Now
ni de
again,
ji su la rang ga wa gam ba ta yin ga wa gam ba de nang ko re
bow down 3 times and then sit down in a comfortable manner. And then comes a point to rejoice both for oneself and on behalf of others.
teni ta te yang jer du tari chang chun chu du sen ji dam ba de lang we cho ga de je ba re la teni te tanda som na chun chun je re som ba ta bu je re de ina yang ngaran su sem ji de to po cha chen bu ya ba yin be chen na be kal ba sam bu chung re teni tanda pa de ngaran su 담비 취라 효마도 바다 송호도 단다 타르투 근데부 톱마도 바데 되니 장주센지 담바 말랑 발라데니 중아 레마도 발라데니 중아래라 되니 다리 송주센지 담바 렌 톱바데 마홍 발라 넘버 2% 제주야바 타르투 근데부 톱주야 반다부 깔바상보단 덴바 임베처나 베 깔바상보래라 되니 데이터부 랑베 깔바상보 종송 섬네 산라 가와감니
This may seem like a very short ceremony, but it, at the same time, it imprints in our stream of being an extremely noble tendency, And if we reflect that in the past we did not attain complete enlightenment yet, and the reason for that was because of not having formed this resolve, the Bodhisattva, having not taken the Bodhisattva vow. But now we have taken it, and that means sooner or later in the future we will be able to become truly and completely enlightened. So this is a real cause of rejoicing now. So please repeat after Rinpoche the words of rejoicing.
Ting du da che.
Ting du da che.
Drebo ye.
Drebo ye.
Me ye sepa.
Me sepa.
Lekpar to.
Lekpa to.
Tering sanje.
Tering sanje.
Rekso chi.
Rekso che.
Sanje se so.
Sanje se so.
Ta jorto.
Ta jorto.
Ta na dagi.
Tani dagi.
Kene chang.
Kene kyang.
Rek tang tunbe.
Rek tang tunbe.
Le zamte.
Le zamte.
Keme zunbe.
Keme zunbe.
Rek ndala.
Rek betela.
Nyopara menjur.
Nyopara menjur.
Detar cha.
Detar cha.
다 대지스라 인가와 감바요래라 인가와 감바테야 다 셈진 망보 다 나란소 제 둥할레 잡고 도 생긴다 대화랑게 도 생긴 미 삼바타보 요래라 드니 대 나랑게 단다 정신주도 생기네 마온팔라 둥할레 쩌바타 대화랑게 도 세페 칼바탄 템바인 베처나 셈진 수인나야 가와지 생기지 인가와 감바래라 대타르도 somni jidunaruchi.
This was on behalf of oneself. Now comes the rejoicing on behalf of others. Because there are many sentient beings who have the feeling there is no one who helps me. No one who helps me alleviate my suffering. No one who helps me to attain happiness. But now, having taken the vow of a bodhisattva, sooner or later in the future we will become capable of helping them. So whoever will have that fortune later on in the future to be benefited, you can rejoice now as well. So please repeat after him.
Dagi tering.
Dagi tering.
Chopa tamchi je.
Chopa tamchi ki.
Jengaranrowa.
Jengaranrowa.
Dehi nidana.
Dehi nidana.
Bardo dela.
Bardo dela.
Rando pusinji.
Bila pusinji.
Ladang lamen.
Ladang lamin.
Laso gawarji.
Laso gawarji.
다 대지스라 mainje dogrelatene Rinpoche the pennaruji.
After this, Rinpoche will give you a bodhisattva name, so please come up one by one.
Karma bhajeno, 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 Di dambati lang ne ta de ji sala ngaran su melam jap kare la melam te ya ta ji du na ne melam jap kare melam khare jap kare se na ta changchu sen de tini senchi thamchi la phemba yin be cherna tini khashi senchi khashi songchu sen ji dam songchu sen ji ma tu pa songchu sen ji ma tu pa ta tinde yo are la tenzo la songchu sen ji war hyo somba melam jap te ta melam ni ba de tene 장주 senji damba to chongju senji ne yang kahi de se nyamju gi nyen kayo ba ta de yo ara denzo la chongju gi sen manyang ba hyo somba manam ja ba ta tene manam sumba de chongju gi senji chongju gi sen manyang ba denzo goni gond men pela wa de yo ara la denzo goni gond pela wa hyo somba manam ja ba de manam namba sumbo de ta manam senji de ne ja ne ji du na ro ji.
Finally, there will be the making an aspiration, a prayer, and the purpose of this is to regard to all sentient beings. There are those who have feel it is difficult to give rise to bodhichitta. So we make the wish that may everyone who has not yet given rise to the bodhisattva attitude do so. Then there are those who have already given rise to bodhicitta, but there is the risk that it may dwindle and disappear. So we make the wish, may that not happen, may the bodhisattva vow never be damaged, deteriorate. And finally, we make the wish that wherever it has taken birth in the mind stream of sentient beings, may it increase further and further. In this way, there are three wishes that are embodied in what we now repeat after Rinpoche.
Chanchub semne
Rinpoche
Machi panam Chejurje Chepa nyamba Mepa tang Kone kondo Pelwara sho.
This completes the Bodhisattva vow ceremony. Now we'll conclude with the general way of concluding the teaching session.
Yeah.